Hi, I'm Barnes, and on this channel I talk about my life as it relates to money. Today we'll be going over how my finances played out in 2020, from getting a pay cut to quitting my full-time job without another lined up, and somehow doubling my net worth in the process. But first, some context. I had moved for a job that I had started the year before, so I was dealing with all the changes that came with that. I had finished paying off $200,000 of student loans also in the prior year, so 2019. So thankfully I was debt free. I was working on getting my cash reserves up and saving as much money as I could and investing where I could. I also had a 3-week trip to Asia planned for the beginning of 2020, which I obviously had to cancel. And that was unfortunate because I had given up a year of traveling, which is one of my favorite things to do in order to have extra money to pay off my student loan debts. So I was watching the news of COVID-19 in January because, as I said, I was planning to go to Asia, and there was going to be a stopover in Beijing to see the Great Wall. So I definitely was on high alert in that regard. So March is right about when COVID became serious, or it appeared to be more serious than it was from the end of 2019, and it was affecting the US economy. And because of that, my job decided to cut everyone's pay across the board, as well as to stop paying for benefits such as business travel and the matching of or retirement contributions. Initially, when this happened, there was no end date because, as you know, everything seemed pretty dire right about that time. So no one is expecting this to resolve as quickly as it did. And by resolve, I mean not turn out as badly as it did for some industries. Obviously not for all, but for the industry that I was in, things did level out and we were able to get our pay reinstated a few months later. However, I never received the money that I lost for those few months, and my view of the company was tarnished in a way based on how they decided to handle their financials during the pandemic. And by that I mean, yes, the pandemic did bring about an economic downturn. However, there were several companies that remained steadfast and did not lay off workers or cut pay, and they were in a similar industry. So because of the loss of income at the beginning of the year and other issues that I had with this particular employer, I decided to quit. The main reason I decided to quit was because the job did not allow me to accomplish what I wanted in life. And essentially that is to be financially independent. And to do so, you need a few things. Income, obviously, and the higher that is, the quicker you can get there. And a lower cost of living helps in that regard as well. This particular job did not offer any of those two things. And I will point out that I moved from my home state for this job, which was in a higher cost of living area. Now, I could have gotten the salary that I wanted if I had stayed with the company and earned my way up the pay scale, as it were. But 10 years is a long time to wait for a salary that I could get by simply switching to another company or moving to another part of the US. Obviously, I knew about the salary and the higher cost of living when I took the job in the first place. However, I was trying to determine whether those things would outweigh the need for a higher income, and they do not. For me. At least not in this particular time in my life. So once I knew I was going to resign, I started looking for other jobs. And as you can imagine, there weren't many because we were in the height of the recession. So I just took a leap of faith and moved back to my home state, figuring I would have a better chance of finding a job if I was physically there. I already had some connections from the job that I left to take the newer job, and it allowed me to work on a type of contractor-like basis, so as needed. So I had that to fall back on while I looked for a full-time job. Additionally, my home state, or the state that I currently live in, has a very low cost of living, so that helped a lot. And because of that, I was able to save up a year's worth of living expenses. So essentially, I had a year to figure out what I was going to do with my life. Now, at the beginning of the year, when things started to go downhill with the pandemic, I did not expect anything or much from my income. I knew that I was going to make less money than I did in previous years. However, in spite of that, I was still able to increase my net worth significantly. And that happened for two reasons. One is that I tend to save the majority of my money. And two, I invested a lot of money as well because I have a goal, like I said previously, of becoming financially independent. And that financial independence to me means not having to work or having work optional. Some people decide to take the option to retire entirely, but it is unlikely that I would do that. I just want to have the freedom. So from the beginning of 2020 to the end of 2020, my net worth increased 115%. So essentially it doubled. Now let's talk a little bit more about the investing side, because I feel like that is probably what had the most contribution to my net worth increasing. I ended up maxing out my retirement account, so that was $19,500, and also maxing out my health savings account, which allowed for $3,550 to be deposited as an individual. As you already know, the stock market did exceptionally well last year considering. So the S&P had a 16% rate of return, and so did my portfolio. And in terms of savings, it was easier to do so because, like most people, I was not spending on the things that I usually do. And as I've said, I like to travel, so I spend a lot of money on travel when I can. So I didn't have those expenses. I'm not usually a person that goes out to restaurants to eat and the like, so I didn't really save any money in that regard. Or I didn't save as much money as most people in that regard, but I did save money because I wasn't doing it. So there it is, a recap of my finances for 2020. I had a few ups and downs, but everything worked out in the end, thankfully. Let me know how your 2020 went in terms of finances. Did anything change for you money-wise? And what is your big financial plan for 2021? Thank you for watching. If you're interested in personal finance and like to see how other people utilize money, definitely hit the subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button as well. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.